Hi, it's Disc Jockey News TV. I'm Bill Hermann. My show is a creative license, as many of you know, and many of you have never heard of because nobody watches anyway. And we're broadcasting right now live from Mobile Beat 23, and I'd like you to meet someone if you haven't yet. His name is Alan Marshall. Alan Marshall lives in Andover in the UK, and well, anyway, he's English is what he is, and he's got a great company over there, Single Op, that not only has been DJing weddings and bars and things like that for years, but just recently has won Best Mobile DJ or Wedding DJ in the entire country of England. And I just wanted you to meet him, and I thought we'd have a little conversation. So hi, Alan.
Hello, Bill.
We've been old friends. We met, in fact, at this conference, how many years ago?
That would be 9-10 years ago.
Okay.
Very famous taxi ride.
How did that even? I don't remember even how that came up, or I do, but I'd rather you tell the story.
Well, we were going to dinner. I mean, I'd come over to Mobile Beat. It was my first time over to Las Vegas, and I felt like a very, very small fish in a very big bowl. And there was a dinner organised in one of the evenings, and everyone was hooking up to get taxis, and I was the life-changing moment for me was I stepped into a taxi with yourself and also my good friend Jim Cerrone, who I'd heard on Disc Jockey America, and I was in complete awe. And we went and had dinner, and it changed my life. Certainly for the last 10 years.
And you talk about that day a lot, but I don't remember you saying anything specific that might have been talked about, or that we might have said, or you might have said, or I in that conversation that made because everybody who comes to these conferences or goes from a part-time DJ doing bars to a professional performing DJ trying to make a living doing it full-time, there's always like a switch that goes off, right? That goes, and you talk about that moment specifically, but you've never been real specific about what it was.
Well, I mean, I've been a DJ now for I started in 1979, so you can do your own maths.
So you were 37.
That's the one. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd been involved in DJ associations over in the UK, and I knew DJs to a certain extent, but I came here and I suddenly felt that I was part of a bigger family, and I think that's the one thing that resonated with me, with yourself and with Jim, and on that one specific moment was it was like coming home. I was suddenly surrounded by a lot of love, and I was bowled over because I was kind of, I'm just the English guy, and I'm surrounded by all these guys with really cool accents, and they kind of know what they're doing, and they got this amazing conference, and I'm just sitting here on the sidelines. And the one thing I wasn't made to feel was that I was made to feel that I belonged. I was as much a part of this as anybody that had walked through that door, because I had walked through the door, specifically that. I mean, there's so many DJs around the world. At a conference like Mobile Beat, you'd think, if you didn't book your ticket kind of before the conference ended, it would absolutely be sold out, because there'd be thousands of DJs on a wait list.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's not the case, but there's a community that's built up of every time I come back here every year, I see old familiar faces, I see friends, and a conversation I had with you in that very taxi drive, to bring it back, was there will become a time, Alan, you said. I was sceptical at the time, but you said there will come a time that you don't come for the conference, you come to hang out with your friends. And yeah, it's true. I mean, that said, I get as much, if not, I get more of golden nuggets, if they actually exist, and help and support from the friends that I've made. We just happen to have a conference while we're meeting up.
Yeah,
that's kind of what it's become.
Yeah, it really is. And regardless of how people might want to judge the conference by the content, I've never really been to a conference that didn't have great content. Okay,
Yeah.
you're coming to a reunion that gives you also content. The reunion itself, I mean, I'll be there for the reunion forever. But now also, I've got great content. I've got lots of speakers I can look at, and the coolest gear, and all of these very inspirational people every year that can inspire the next thing, or at least the next 20 minutes when you're starting to feel like you might be tired of this. You know, the end of the year comes, and you've got that feeling of what you might describe as burnout.
Yeah.
And that evaporates after coming to a thing like this.
It does. I think it recharges the battery. You've burnt out from the noise out there. Is heavier towards the naysayers than the positive people. One of the things I learned on earlier on was surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
And this is a great place to do that. And something a phrase that you coined, or at least a phrase that I hear from you often, Bill, is you get a chance to look through a different lens.
Yeah.
And that's simply it. It's the fact that nothing I've found out here at Mobile Beat, apart from the very early workshops with Mark and Rebecca Farrell, which I really didn't understand, and they also changed my life. But most of the stuff that I see within the seminars, it's not stuff that I didn't know existed. What it is, it's stuff that I can see and go, okay, I never thought of doing it that way. I've always been doing it this way because I thought that was the way to do it.
Right.
Because as per a conversation we had many years ago, there's this guy that says this is the way you've always got to do it.
Yeah.
And we've listened to that guy, but coming to one of these conferences, you get a chance to not only be inspired, but you also have an opportunity and responsibility to inspire. And I think that's the reason we're here.
Well, absolutely, and something that you in that taxi ride I couldn't have convinced you of. That would be you as well. But then you went away from that conference, and over the years, very quickly set yourself in a situation as a person who could inspire that thrust you into the forefront of the industry there in England, taking over as the national chairman of the NADJ, which is their national DJ conference, and sitting there and building something that didn't really exist until you came back with the new lens of what you saw happening here, and then building that over there, and then helping to build conferences and leaders over there within your community, and as well as building yourself into a more powerful performer, a more engaging DJ and master of ceremonies, in such a way that you, like I said, this year we're honored with the best in the country. I mean, literally best in the entire country, and at the same time being very humble about it. And then even with that, being humble about that, you looked at your life once again, wanting to reach out and be inspirational. The national DJ magazine over there, Pro Mobile, came to you to write an article, and you decided that you were going to learn something to be able to write the article, which is, instead of I know a thing, I'm learning along with you. And the most amazing thing happened. You asked the question of yourself, are you fit enough, like physically fit enough to continue DJing?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the one thing I knew about Alan is I always thought that he was, and I'm sure many people will say the same thing. But he also he's got a physical issue with his leg and with being able to walk, and was told very young in his life that he would never get to this age and not be in a wheelchair, whereas he is. So then he looked at that and said, so now am I fit enough to continue to do this? And I'm just saying that so you can get started a little bit as to a little bit about that journey, because the article was extraordinary.
So there was a point last year that I looked at myself in the mirror, and I had to make an honest kind of response to what I was. I realised I was overweight. Now first of all I thought, well, that's not my fault. That's just happened. It's circumstances. This voice in our head tells us, you know what, it's okay, a few extra pounds, it doesn't matter, etc.
Yeah, my voice says, it's okay, you like cheesecake. Anyway.
So I thought, well, okay, I've seen all these exercise gyms and exercise programs, etc., and things like Weight Watchers and all this. And I thought, well, I could do one of those, but I don't see they work for me. One of my actual condition is hereditary spastic paraplegia, which means all the nerves in my going down my spine aren't all connected. So it makes it hard to walk at times for me. So I thought, well, I can't go to a gym because that just won't work for me. So I had to think, well, what can I do that will work for me? Because I looked around and realised that I wasn't alone. In an average room, yeah, I was kind of the most unfit person in the average room. But then when you made that average room a room of DJs, I was kind of holding my own. I was okay. Yeah, we were all kind of put extra few pounds because we make we make the wrong choices. And we don't look after our health. And to stay in this amazing industry, I realised the fact that if I wanted to carry on doing that, and I'm in my mid-50s, being in my mid-50s for me isn't an issue, but being in my mid-50s and unfit and overweight potentially is an issue. So I started looking at small incremental ways to change that, and I went through this whole process of creating my own path to a life shift rather than a diet, a life shift. So it wouldn't give up stuff. That's kind of easy, but that's also why it's easy to stop. You know, and you know, you hear all the time you can have a break from your diet. Yeah, you can have a cheat day. Well, yeah, one cheat day becomes 2 cheat days, and by the end of the week, you're not on the diet anymore.
You've got a cheat week, you've got a cheat month,
and you're back.
2019 will be my cheat year.
Yeah, and you make those excuses because the voices in your head say, "No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
They're not judging me."
Right.
Yeah, they are. Reality check. They are really judging you. Whether it doesn't get you the booking or not, well, that's open to conjecture. But certainly, your health is going to be an issue because we're standing up. Certainly, I'm a full day a host and wedding DJ. So a day for me in the UK can be 15, 16 hours on my feet. Now, that's going to take its toll. And
even with somebody that's not carrying around an extra 60 pounds.
Absolutely, even with a person that's not doing that. And and as you get older, your recovery from that exercise at work takes longer to recover. And I thought, well, I want to keep doing this. So what I've got to do is I've got to find something that's going to work for me. And I found, one of the things I found was a thing called Active 10. Because I'd heard about this 10,000 steps, which was made up because it was just a big number. And they replaced it with, well, yeah, that's fine, but if you can just do 10 minutes active walking each day, that would be good, because if you weren't doing 10 minutes yesterday and now you're doing 10 minutes today, that's bonus.
Yeah, it's simple.
And then do it in small increments and keep moving forward. And that's kind of what I did, and I found walking was the best way to lose weight. Now, remember my condition with my legs. Walking for me, walking more than 500 yards had its challenges.
Right.
Okay. I could reasonably disguise it well at function when I was working, but most people at some point or another have said, "Alan, why are you limping? What you done to your leg?" It's just the condition. It's something that I don't even know I'm doing anymore. So I started finding this path to how can I do this, and I went from 500 yards was something that was daunting towards me. So now, for certainly the last 60, 70 days, I've walked 5 to 10 miles every single day, rain, snow, hell, to maintain. And
he's been doing that here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every morning at 6 a.m. he disappears for an hour and a half to 2 hours and puts 5 to 10 miles in. Yeah. And that's inspiring. Okay, but I know a lot of people are thinking the same thing I was thinking when you told me this. Is I've done that, 10 minutes a day, but then there's so many things that got in the way.
Yeah.
And it was the 10 minutes was supposed to be easy, but it's not really. It wasn't that easy. And then it got to 15, and I don't know if I have the time and I couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden you're not doing it. I've done that. And then so much so that when I think about doing the Active 10, I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I would. So how did you get past that hump that we know?
You have to silence the voices in your head that say you can't. You have to just go, right, well, I did 10 today, I'm going to do 10 tomorrow, and I'm going to do 10 the next day.
Yeah.
And almost I'm a failure if I don't do my 10 minutes.
Ooh.
I've kind of got to do it. I don't think a failure is necessarily the right word, but be committed to every day you're going to do that 10 minutes walk, etc.
Regardless of the circumstances?
Regardless of the circumstances. I know that I can get, if I've got a function, an all-day function, I can go out and do 10 minutes before I leave the house. It's not going to kill me. But I know that during a function on a day, I'm probably going to do that 10,000, probably 20,000 steps at that function anyway. So on game day, I can take the day off and walk in the mile or a couple 5 miles or so that I'm doing. But again, it wasn't about being strict, but it was about changing the way I thought about things. It wasn't about berating myself that I can't do these things. It was about finding a way to not only silence the voices in my head, but to deal with the overwhelm. Because if anyone's like me, when I first started this, the only exercise I did was I carried the gear into the venue, and then I carried the gear out of the venue, and that was my weekly exercise.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I did. And with doing 10, 15-hour days, I was pretty much lying on a couch completely wrecked the rest of the week, or working on the business in the office, finding lots of ways.
Right.
But what I found was with the walks, and as they progressed and started to be an hour long, I found time to listen to podcasts, to educate or change my mind. And one of the things that I found from doing all of this, almost a side effect, was it changed my demeanour. Now, I've always been a
well, see, and I know that's true.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, but I knew.
It's relatively a happy guy, but I have my demons, and when people you hear stuff, you kind of believe it, and you start digging,
right,
beating on yourself. But I found that when I was starting to achieve something from just the exercise and the weight loss, I suddenly thought, well, if I can do this, I can do anything. And then I had another eureka moment. It was kind of, wow, okay. So now, all that stuff that was holding me back doesn't matter. Because I've gone from someone who was unaware that they were overweight for probably 20 years, to someone who's still probably in the average room, not the fittest guy, but is a universe away from what I was.
Yeah.
Because I just decided that I was going to make a change, and that was it.
It is extraordinary, and it speaks to. There's our active 30 seconds. And it reminds me too of the old story of you want to be a person of integrity, and what integrity is. Integrity is I'm going to do a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it every day or every half an hour or whatever that is, regardless of the circumstances. I'm going to find a way to do that thing.
Yeah.
And there was a story that brought it home for me when it was about a monk that walked every day from his hut to the monastery every single day, and he decided that every day when I go over that small koi pond of a bridge, I'm going to pick up a stone and I'm going to throw it into the water, right? And he did that every day for 3 weeks, and then one day he didn't, and he got halfway to the monastery and went, oh my God, and he went back and threw 2 stones in to make up for the promise that he made. And we're really good at making promises for everybody else, especially if you do weddings or you work for clients that you do amazing work for. You set promises that a lot of people won't, and then you deliver on them on a regular basis. And that's why the people might say he's amazing, because you said something and said you would do a thing that somebody else wouldn't. But I know for a fact when it comes to me, and Alan will tell you the same thing, until you get past that thing that's in your way, which is you, okay? It's the only thing that's in the way of any of this. You won't make good on that same promise, even the smaller ones, that the promise was for nobody else but you, and you'll let that one go. As opposed to, you would never let that one go on your wife, or your child, or your client, or the guy that you met once, 2 weeks ago, that you said you do, and you will make sure that you do that. But if you say, I'm going to eat bran cereal for the next 3 days, on the second day you go, well, I know I promised myself, but, I like Captain Crunch. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're breaking a promise that at the time meant something to you. So what it is about us as human beings that we don't see that the promises we make to ourselves are as important, or more important, in fact, than the promises you keep for everybody else. It is a weird dichotomy that we deal with and live in all of the time. And you found a way, or at least you discovered, you didn't find a way, because it's always there, everybody has the way, but you discovered that that was like a foreign voice in your head. There was a big liar in your head that if you heard it, you could say, oh, that's what that is. Yeah. I'm just going to take that out and I'm going to remove it. I know it's a lie. So if it's not there anymore, now what can I do? I could redo the promise. Yeah. So you went back every day and put that stone back in the river. Yeah.
Absolutely, every day.
And because of it, how many stone?
I've lost 60 pounds, 4 stones.
4 stones. He's saying 4 stones to me for a week before I went, okay, what does that mean in American? But 60 pounds you did in less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And you're still going. You've taken that, I'm going to walk every day, to I'm going to take care of myself with food. And you did that in like little increments too, that I'm going to stop doing this, and I'm going to add that, and I'm going to change this. But it wasn't just like, here's the diet of a million things. You went, I wonder if I could do no bread. And you did. Even though you were also doing carbs, and you realized that there were carbs. And could I do that? Well, so it was little increments and increments and increments. Yeah. And so instead of, it's like the old saying of perfection is not as good as moving forward.
Absolutely.
And you did that. Every single day you moved forward a little bit more, even if it was from 10 minutes to 12 minutes, from 12 minutes to 13 minutes, to no bread, to less bread, to no bread, to more vegetables, to a good vegetable, to all this stuff that you've just done, and it all feels now natural, as opposed to, God, do I have to do this?
It all happened over those 6 months. Nothing happened in one moment. It kind of evolved as I went, and that was kind of on purpose, because what I didn't want it was to be down the gym exercise or a diet. It needed to be a life change. It needed to be something that now become natural to me. Right. And what I discovered was that, well, if I can do this, well, anything is possible. But then if I can do this, so can anyone. And that's 6 months. 6 months went from that guy, when I looked at pictures of old pictures of me from a year back, to pictures of me now, I wondered why didn't anyone tell me about Fat Al? What was that about? Because I never saw that, and we don't. When we look in the mirror, we see the person that was there yesterday, was there the day before. We're not looking through the lens of what was I a year ago or what was I 10 years ago. Right. So we don't see that initial shift. That's usually seen in your friends, people you trust, that will tell you what you need to hear rather than what you want to hear.
Well, that's true, but that's only to a degree. As much as you say, why didn't anybody tell me about this?
Sure.
Okay, here I am sitting in my body, as I have for over 20 years, and I've had people tell me.
Sure.
It's not as much as, well, the people who care about me who should tell me. It's that it doesn't matter what they say. What matters is when I can quell the voice in my head, because I believe this one, the liar in my head, but I won't believe my wife, right? Or the people who love me the most.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyone can tell you that, but ultimately they can say you're this or you're that, but ultimately the only person that can step through the door is you. Yeah. You have to make that decision. There was a decision 10 years ago that I stepped through the door and came to the US and did the Marbeckers and did training and met you. Yeah. I made that decision to make that happen, to jump on a plane and do that. As with 6 months ago, I made a decision, something's got to change, and I stepped through the door. Best will in the world, you're not going to do that until you're ready to step through that door. Yeah. But I'm here to testify that the grass is greener on the other side.
Testify, baby. Yeah, it is. It's pretty extraordinary. If you'd like to read his article, it's in this month's issue of Pro Mobile magazine. It's a UK magazine. If you search it on Google, Pro Mobile United Kingdom, or just Pro Mobile Magazine UK, you can find the magazine. And not only can you, I know the guy will actually send you a paper copy. Should you give me mine? A paper copy. They're still printing copies of the magazine.
Well, it's actually available as a downloadable app.
Right. There it is. It absolutely is.
Downloadable app where you can pay subscription and download all of those, pretty much quite a back catalogue of stuff, and it's an amazing magazine.
Yeah. Well, and I know Alan well enough too that he's on Facebook, he's on all those social media apps. You can't. It's not difficult to find his website and his email. And if in fact you feel that an inspirational conversation with this inspirational person, he would not turn you away. That's not the person he is. So if you want to reach out to him directly, you certainly can. If you can't find him, you just get a hold of me. You know me, it's difficult. It's not tough to find me online. So anyway, that probably should do it. We've been babbling, and I'm sure we can go longer on this subject. And if you, like I said, if you want to know more, just reach out to us. This is Just Jockey News. This is live from Mobile Beat 23. They just opened the showroom floor, so there's a lot of noise, as you can see. And I see a blue ox, like cow with long horns, coming towards us now.
Only in Vegas.
In Vegas, baby. All right. Thanks again, and keep watching. They're going to continue to do things live here in Vegas. This is Mobile Beat 23, and of course, Disc Jockey News and DJNTV.